loud ass shit going by outside my window. Weird. Happy Sagittarius season, bitches. So, yeah, I missed the whole weekend. I started to do some stuff, and then I just was like, fuck it, I don't feel like it. And, you know, I want this blog and thing that I do to be a thing that I want to do, not a thing that I feel like I have to do, because with my mental health issues, I can get fixated and think I have to do this shit every single day, and that's not entirely true. Welcome to Witch Michelle. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, please, if you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe button. Maybe make a few comments, whatever, share it with your friends, whatever. I also wanted to just say that once I get through all of this, and I am in week 11 right now of my shadow work journey, it's probably going to be other things that we'll talk about. It won't just always be this like really big, deep thing that's happening. It was just a really big, deep thing that was happening to me, and I wanted to document it. Plus, like, you know, one day my kids can look back and go, man, my mom was really fucking out her goddamn limits. What do we got left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Almost, we're just about halfway there. Next week will be week 12, and then we'll have 12 more weeks to go. So look at how I did half a year's worth of work. It's pretty fucking amazing. At where I'm at and how I've been. I also slacked off in writing in my journal this weekend. Sometimes stuff gets a little overwhelming for me, and I can't make myself sit and do those things, and I honor those moments when I feel that way. And I also had some really serious shit happen on Friday with a family member, and we thought there was another COVID scare in our house. Bob and I had thought we were exposed a couple of weeks ago, and then we had somebody else think they were exposed, and they were delirious and just not behaving properly, and they were in the hospital for a little while, and that sent me into a fucking spiral. And I want to just tell you that with some of the work that I've been doing, particularly the meditation and positive affirmations, I'll post them out on Facebook. I do alpha female daily affirmations now. And when I start going down those spirals of, I don't think I can do this, somebody needs to bail me out right the fuck now, because I am so panicked, I don't know how to do anything, then all of a sudden it comes to me that I am an alpha female, that I am enough, that I can trust my gut, that I have the answers, that I know what to do, that I know the way. All of those things come up even when I'm scared and wondering what the fuck am I going to do. I also generally, when things like that happen, like what happened with the illness this week, I've got some really good momentum going in my real estate work, and I was just about ready to drop that and just go like, okay, I can't do any of this, so I'm not going to do any of it at all. And I didn't. I picked up my shit and I worked. And when I think about the one place where I've always been pretty disciplined has been my diet and exercise. And even when Bob was in the hospital a few years ago, I exercised first and then I went to the hospital. Every day, that's what I did. And so every day I have to do what I got to do to be self-sufficient, to take care of my own self and and take care of me. And so if I let things derail me that way, I'm never going to get anything accomplished. And I think after I was this many years old when I figured that out. Yay, I'm 2 weeks away from being 59. Okay. What the hell, dude? Anyway, so this week is week 11, and the theme of the week is Untying the Mask. It's a card I've had before, but it is very, very beautiful, and it reminded me of something I wanted to do. It's 4 of Cups. I want to get a mask, just a plain white mask, and write on it all the things of the descriptions of me, of who I think I am. And before I get into the whole card, because generally I like to read that description to you guys the first week. I want to talk about what I feel about the card. So this week, my whole gig is going to be diving into the masks that I wear for other people. And what happens, and I'm not saying that you don't always I mean, that wearing a mask sometimes, I think sometimes it's a little necessary. Especially if you're trying to be kind to other humans and living creatures. You have to sort of be kind, and you might have to put a mask on. But if your go-to when somebody or someone or something happens and makes you feel lesser than who you are, or even your own habitual thought processes bring you back to that place where you feel like you are not good enough, that you slap a mask on, that's a really bad idea, because it stops you from being your most authentic self. And it's sort of like when you are lying to somebody, right? Now think about that for a minute. You have to have a really good memory when you're lying. What did I say? Who did I say it to? When did I say it? What is the story that I have for this? If you don't have that mask on and you are being your most authentic self, there's no story to tell. There's no changing it up for somebody else or someone else. And mostly the reason why we put the masks on is because we don't feel like we're good enough, that we don't belong, that we aren't successful, that we aren't the person we need to be around those certain people, whatever it is. And then we're constantly looking for other people to approve for other people's approval for how we're living our lives. We've got to stop doing that and have approval for our own lives and the way we live them. As long as we know that we're not trying to hurt somebody, which doesn't mean we won't, because we're learning and we're moving and we're growing, and sometimes it gets messy and ugly and you get a little spirally, and when you spiral it turns into a tornado, and the tornado sucks some people up into the vortex, and you don't mean for them to get hurt, but they do. And then, you talk about it and you apologize for that shit, and it's up to them. Do they accept it or do they not? I have really gotten to a place where I don't really give a flying fuck if anybody forgives me anymore. If they want me in their life or they don't want me in their life anymore. I am down with the sickness. Whatever they feel is best for their life, whatever makes them feel whole, happy, and successful. If it doesn't include me, I'm okay, because it's important for them to live their journey, walk their path, and do the thing that they need to do on their own without any fucking sidetracking shit. Plus, I don't want to be anybody's scapegoat. So if they don't like me and then I'm shoving my shit up into their face all the time, like my cousin used to do, like to blame me for his fucking failures, I won't be there to do that. Then you're going to have to start relying on your own damn self. You know what I mean? Just like I can't keep blaming my mom and dad who are dead, and I can't blame my ex-husband who is dead, and I can't blame those cousins that have treated me the same way since I was fucking 18 years old for why I behave the way I do, for why I'm constantly looking for somebody to rescue me, for why I think somebody needs to fix all my problems and clean up my messes. You got to clean up your own messes, just like they said in Practical Fucking Magic. Clean up your own goddamn mess. That's what you have to do. And take your fucking mask off and wear your true self, that authentic who you are self, out for the whole world to see, and raise your goddamn freak flag up high and let people see it for what it is. I will venture to say that most people, if they could just do that, if they felt like it would be okay. And it's really hard. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you for 5 minutes that I think it's easy to go, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to let all my whole family hate me now. I'm not going to see these people anymore till the day I die. That's my plan. I'm all right with that. That is difficult. That is a really tough place to get to where you can look at your family members and go, I'm done. I am not going to let that part of my life, that door is closed. Does that mean if they come knocking on it and want to say they're sorry to me or include me in something, it may or may not accept it? But right now, for me personally, I am totally fine with that. Just like I'm totally fine with what my kids are doing. I am not going to interfere in the workings of adult people. however they want to live their lives is how the fuck they need to live their lives. And I have no input to add to that shit, because you know why? I don't want any of mine unless I'm asking for some guidance. Unless they ask me for guidance, I'm not giving that shit out freely to anybody in my life. I will listen to what people have to say, but I am not going to try to be a therapist. That's not a mask I'm going to put on for anybody. I'm not going to give my advice on how they should behave or what they should do, because 9 times out of 10, most people ain't going to do what you tell them to do anyway, or suggest that they should do anyway. And then they're just going to keep coming back to you over and over again, like with the same shit going on in their lives that they've had going on in their lives since you knew them, you know, in 1987. And then you're like, well, after a minute, you kind of go, what the fuck? There was this one lady that lived in my neighborhood when the one we lived in before we got here, in this subdivision, and this bitch would get drunk and come to my house at least pardon me, once a month, maybe more, and complain about her husband, how she just couldn't fucking stand him, how shitty he was to her, how he treated her like this, how he treated her like that, how he was ignoring her, how he was like talking to other women, whatever the fuck it was. And one day I just looked at her and said, dude, like, I can't do this with you anymore. I don't want to hear your sad story, because I could tell it. I know it so well. I could tell it. So, I mean, after a minute, people don't want to hear that shit. And I'm sure I did it too. I'm not sitting here going, oh, you know, I'm perfect. I never did that. You know, that wasn't me. I never did that to anybody, but I did. I know I did, and I, you know, it's a part of your growth. But I wish someone had looked at me a decade ago and said, can you just shut the fuck up about that stuff? Because, dude, seriously, unless you're going to do something to change the situation, I don't want to hear that sad story anymore. I don't want to hear about your stupid husband. None of it. You know, I can't. And we're grooming ourselves when we act that way and keep putting on those masks for other people to be sort of narcissistic, because we're looking for that adoration. We're looking for people to confirm that we're doing the right thing all the time. And it's just not, we're not living our authentic self. And if you try to keep putting masks on and hiding from who you are and not opening yourself up and dealing with the stuff that's inside of you, I promise you, eventually it's going to come to the surface, and it's going to make you deal with it one way or the other, because mine did, and it did in a really explosive fucking way. And I keep going back to that, but that was my rock bottom. That's what started this journey 11 weeks ago, was me just wanting to pretty much kill everybody in my house. I mean, like, it was violent and ugly and horrible. And I'm sure that I treated lots of people the way that I treated my family that day before that. So it's so much better than to deal with it than to just keep stuffing it down, because the more you stuff it down, I just keep going back to that whole thing. We're getting into that whole Yule season. And if you watch A Christmas Carol, when Jacob Marley comes back and talks to Scrooge to tell him about the 3 ghosts that are coming, and he's wearing all the chains, and Scrooge says to him, you know, what's that chain that you wear? And that was the chain that he bound himself. He forged it link by link and wrapped it around himself and locked it all up. And he said, this is my burden from 7 years ago, and yours was just as big then, and now it's worse than this. And you got a lot of shit you got to clean up. Go clean up your mess before you fucking die, and you can't do it. And you leave a legacy of hatred and anger and just whatever it is, you know, fix it. Fix it now. Work on your fucking path. Work on yourself. Learn what is your business and what isn't, so you don't fucking keep fucking with shit, you know? Take your mask off. Let people see who you are. They like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. Let them fucking move on. It's fine. It really is. When you just give yourself that freedom to not give a fuck, it's so much better than when you're just all the time sitting around fixated, worried on whether or not somebody likes me, if somebody's going to be mad at me if I do this, if I behave this way, if I say this thing, if I go here, if I wear that, whatever it is. God damn, it's too much. Just breathe and be yourself, as long as you know you're doing the right thing. The other thing about taking off your mask and living your most authentic self lets you be a little more objective about who you are and what you're doing. So it will help you along your way of trying to clean up the things you need to clean up and work on your shadow self. It lets you actually, shadow work requires you digging things up out of your past you really don't want to look at. And there's probably a whole bunch of shit you don't want to look at that you've totally fucking forgotten about. I had stuff come up last week that I had not thought about since in 50 years. Things I had buried for 50 fucking years came flying up out of my fucking brain and sent me into a tiz so bad that I, for the first time in probably 6 weeks, I needed to take a Klonopin to handle my day. And I hadn't had to do that in so long because the guilt, the shame, the anger at being told that I was something that I wasn't, that you got to deal with the stuff. You got to be your most authentic self so that you can deal with the other stuff. You got to, it takes a minute, but the more you work on the stuff, the more the stuff will come up, because your gods and your guides and your ancestors and whoever's walking this path with you, because there's so many people behind you right now, they bring that shit up when you're ready for it. And you're ready for it, but it doesn't mean it's not going to hurt. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to be some difficult process in doing it. But I can promise you that if you don't deal with it, if you don't start doing the things that you need to do to get yourself out of the icky place you are so that you can be the person you were meant to be before somebody else told you who you were, it's just going to be that much more difficult the next day. And every day that comes after that if you don't do what you need to do. So we put that mask on when we feel less, when we feel inferior, when we feel like we're not fitting in. That's when we put the mask on. We even put it on sometimes when we're all by ourselves and we're not feeling good about ourselves. Take shit off, man. Take it off. Take it off as often as possible. Every time you feel like you're creeping into your back pocket and yanking that thing out, or it's sitting behind your head and you're pulling it up over, stop yourself and say, not today. Not today, Michelle. Today you're going to be authentic to who you are. Whether people like it or not, you're going to be your authentic self. People can take you or they can leave you. And if they leave you, that's one less set of bullshit that you'll have to deal with somebody else. Not that I don't want friends, not that I don't want people around me, but the people that really love you and really care about you are not going to toss you aside while you're doing some hard work. So, happy Monday, happy holiday week, rock on with your bad self, and think about your masks as you go about your day to day and as you go about the rest of your week. Peace.